All right, let's talk some Brian Flores shutting down Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense. A lot of what he did was, I know I'm late on this video. I'm over a week late on this video, in fact, but I still wanted to get it out because I thought that was a very fascinating situation and all this stuff that happened. And I think that for Flores, this is kind of what I've been saying about Flores is getting way too much criticism for this season. It is not his fault. The team that he has isn't great. And maybe you could argue there's some personnel stuff, but I don't know how much he has impact in that. The personnel decisions haven't been perfect. The drafting hasn't been perfect, but the coaching has been pretty close to perfect, in my opinion. So, and again, you could argue some game management stuff, but the X's and O's have been great. Let's talk about what he did really well in this game against the Ravens. A lot of it was, cover zero, whether he's playing cover zero or just showing cover zero, and let's get into it. All right, let's start things off with this play. So this is kind of really what Miami was doing, or at least showing a lot of in this game. It doesn't mean that they would actually do it every time, but what you're showing is that you're showing a cover zero blitz, which, just in case you don't know what that is, typically you'll do it on this situation where it's a third down and, about 10. That's why all of the Miami corners are playing so far off. So if you're wondering why not just flip it to one of your receivers, well, because you need 10 yards, they can run up and make a tackle. Now, there's obviously a clear benefit and a clear disadvantage for Miami doing something like this. The clear benefit for Miami is that you should get an unblocked pass rusher to the quarterback, typically. Now, they're actually going to drop players back on this play, but still, you can still drop players back and sometimes still get that free rusher to the quarterback, which will also happen on this play. If you think about it, you're always going to have one more guy rushing the passer than who can block if you're actually running a cover zero, because even though the Baltimore Ravens have two players who are blocking, one of the two guys in charge of covering those two blocking players also rush the passers. So, again, just using math right here, the Ravens have currently on this play 7 guys blocking and 3 guys receiving. Those 3 are covered up by 3 defensive backs, meaning that there's going to be 8 players rushing the passer for the Dolphins. So what's the disadvantage? Well, the disadvantage is that, you see a deep route with Sammy Watkins. If this works, it's going to be a touchdown. It's a complete one-on-one matchup, and if you can, break a tackle or anything on a cover zero, it doesn't just get you some yards, it gets you a touchdown typically. So that's where the disadvantage comes in. And watch, right when this play starts, you do have a free rusher, but Lamar hangs in there, and it's going to make actually a beautiful throw deep down the field. This is weird, though, because Sammy Watkins, I wonder if he just lost it in the lights or something. His head's already turned away from the ball. So I think he has his hands up. I don't know exactly what happened here, but you see the ball. I've circled the ball. It's going to land. It's going to land inbounds. It's not going to land that much further from where Watkins is. I do think if Watkins saw the ball, he probably makes this catch. I almost wonder if it was just like right above his head, and just when he turned, he just couldn't see it. Very bizarre play. As you see, he doesn't end up making the catch. So that's kind of, they got a break there for Miami, but this is the logic behind it. And this is really the only time they were able to actually get someone open deep down the field. So now let's go over to this play. So what did Baltimore do to counteract this once they saw this was happening? I mean, listen, the receivers aren't really getting open one-on-one against Miami. That's just not something that's really happening. So what do? Well, you can do something like this, where you run kind of what we talked about earlier, of just flipping it to a receiver. You run a wide receiver screen. This is stuff that can work. Again, you have a couple players block. All that has to happen here is if Brown can get past the one receiver who's supposed to be covering him, one defensive back who's supposed to be covering him, then you can get at least a first down, maybe a touchdown. However, right when this happens, so Lamar gets it to Hollywood Brown, but you're going to see a pretty good tackle gets made. They only get about 7 yards, and this was on a third down. There's also a fumble involved there, so that's not great. I believe Baltimore recovered it, but it still goes to show these are the kind of plays that, okay, it's not a horrible counter, but it's difficult. You still have to pull it off. Now, going over to this one, I mean, it should be mentioned, it's not like none of these worked. I mean, as you see, Lamar is going to flip it over to Hollywood Brown. This time, they're going to get the first down on a first down, but the reality is this just didn't happen enough. It was something that could happen, but it didn't happen enough. And even when it does happen, it's still not exactly what you're going for, right? I mean, the whole thing you want to do is you want to get explosives against cover zero, where you're still going to have to methodically move the ball down the field, which means that the biggest weakness of cover zero isn't really getting, you're not really taking advantage of it. Like, this one's going to be another kind of example of why this it wasn't the best strategy. It wasn't a horrible strategy to do from time to time, but you have to come up with better ways to do it. Like on this one, you know, they kind of finally said, hey, let's just start pulling a tackle out of the way so he can also help block. You do this, now you have a tackle and a tight end who are going to block the two corners, and then you hope that on this play, Sammy Watkins can make the grab and, you know, run and pick up a touchdown. That's the goal here. This is a home run play, even though it's going to be a very quick throw from Lamar Jackson. However, when Lamar takes the snap, he quickly looks over, and there's a couple of things to note. A, the Miami edge rusher is aware of this, so he's getting in the passing lane. So it's going to be tough for Lamar to get it over to Watkins. On top of this, you see that corner is paying attention, and he's aware of this, and he's crashing in and not allowing Watkins to get completely open on this play. So you have kind of both of those situations happening at once. It's just difficult for Lamar Jackson to get the ball over, and even if he did, I don't know if they're getting a touchdown on that play. As you see, Lamar ends up just taking a sack right here, which honestly wasn't the worst decision given what happened. So that's the other aspect, is once you start coming up with a counter, well, teams are going to find counters for that counter. Now, Baltimore also tried stuff like this, where you're going to see Rashad Bateman, who's going to just run a route over the middle. Bateman actually had a solid game. He's kind of the guy who you're hoping can, you know, be the guy who can win consistently against man coverage. But what's going to happen is that what's notable is, again, Miami is dropping a couple players back into coverage, 3 in fact, but they're all going to be dropping to the offense's right, meaning that no one's going to be covering Bateman. Look, Bateman's going to get open quickly, Lamar makes the throw quickly, and they pick up a first down. So good job by Lamar, good job by Bateman, but also the issue with this is that if a Miami player does drop over the middle, now you can't make that throw, and you don't have time to get to a second read because of the heavy blitz. So that's just, you know, it's why it worked this time, but it's why it can't work consistently, especially with the way these two teams match up. And then we saw stuff like this, where again, kind of going back to that first play, this is a similar example of, like, you have the right idea, it's just not working. Where again, cover zero, only 2 players are running routes on this play for Miami, so it's very bizarre. This isn't what we're used to seeing when we watch football. But look at how Lamar is going to take the snap. He is going to make a pretty good throw to Hollywood Brown, who just can't quite make the grab. You got to make those plays, and that is kind of why it's like, okay, basically what Miami did was they took the ball out of Lamar's hands by making him throw it immediately, and that's the best way to have success. We've seen teams have success with man coverage against Baltimore before, but never quite like this before. So yeah, fascinating stuff. Good stuff from Flores. You know, I mean, he did the right thing of saying, how can I attack their weakness? Not just saying, well, this is what we do. You know, he doesn't play cover zero all the time. He blitzes a lot, but not cover zero blitzes all the time. The flip side, though, for the Ravens, is this concerning? Is this a blueprint? My argument is the blueprint's been out there for years at this point, that this is what you want to do to Lamar. Teams don't really, you know, just get the ball out of his hands, right? It's not a Lamar Jackson problem. That's what I think people don't fully realize. It's a Ravens offense problem, and they need to, hopefully Bateman's that guy for the Ravens to hit him more frequently. I think that the Ravens will be fine. I think that they do need to really make sure they're prepared, because this probably will happen again. And when it does, they have to make sure they're ready. And I think they will be. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.